Welcome back to another video on exam preparation. In the last film we broke down the 5 elements of voice, so this time we're going to take a deep dive into physical skills. And more specifically how movement breaks down. Pace, proxemics, posture, levels and gestures. Let's get into it. Now, similar to vocal skills, questions for physical skills crop up in 2 main areas. The first is within those short mark questions where it could be worth anything between 1 to 6 marks, and the second is within the 15 mark acting question. And sometimes that question can just be about physical skills alone. So make sure you watch this video all the way through so you're familiar with all the terms you need to know about. And my structure for that question is coming in the next video, along with some essay examples for you to follow. So do yourself a favour, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell because that is not one you want to miss. Okay, let's start with a familiar one. Pace. In the same way that we use this for voice, pace of movement simply refers to the speed in which the characters move. Brisk, slow, hurried, a leisurely pace. Measured, sluggish. Whatever the word is that you choose to use, it communicates clearly how fast or how slow the character is moving at any particular moment. So of course a rapid pace might suggest a sense of urgency, excitement, or even anxiety or fear, whereas a slower pace might show calmness, reflection, or even a moment of sadness. But pace of movement isn't just about being fast or slow, as if they're 2 polar opposites and you have to make one choice or another. Sometimes using a combination of different paces within a scene can really affect the mood or the atmosphere. So for example, with Alim in scene 2 of Refugee Boy, when he wakes up in an unfamiliar place on his own, a sudden burst of speed or even a gradual increase in his pace could show his desperation to find his father. Or the opposite might be true. You might have a character moving with a nervous, quick pace at the start of a scene while they await some news, a little bit like Dan's parents in I Love You Mum, but then the pace of movement could suddenly slow down as she realises it's not the positive news she hoped for. So for movement, pace is really important because it can change the mood or the atmosphere of a scene very quickly. So next is proxemics. Proximity. This relates to the distance between characters in the space, whether they are close together or far away. This can be really helpful if you're trying to think about the relationship between 2 characters, because generally speaking, close proximity often suggests that the characters trust each other, that there's a friendship, or that they're just generally comfortable in each other's spaces. Whereas a greater distance between characters might suggest that they don't like each other very much, or that there's some sort of tension in the relationship. But bear in mind, this can be flipped, because a character who chooses to come up into your space could also be really threatening, and equally characters can still like each other from far away. So it is open to interpretation and it does depend on the characters within your set text. But just remember that proxemics means the distance between characters in the space. Okay, the next one. Ugh, posture. Could do with a stretch actually. Oh, that's good. So, posture. This one I think we can all relate to a little bit. Most of us probably have a pretty bad posture from constantly looking down at our phones, endlessly scrolling through unimportant content, apart from Drama Dan videos, obviously. But within physical skills for acting, posture isn't just about standing or sitting up straight. It's something that tells a story about a character's physical state or emotional journey through the scene. A slouched, hunched, or stooped posture might suggest that a character is sad, that they're exhausted, or maybe they're experiencing some sense of defeat. And a posture that's more upright or poised might suggest a sense of readiness, a sense of confidence or pride. So you get the idea, but posture can also be a really good indication of a character's status or importance. So a character that's slumped over in the corner drunk at a rave has a much lower status than the upright police officer who's coming in to break it up. This applies to levels as well. Generally speaking, a character who's placed on a higher level or even elevated on a platform will have a higher status. But it doesn't just have to be on a platform. Somebody standing up is generally going to have a higher status than the person who is sat down on a chair, but then somebody sat on a table is going to have a higher status than somebody who is lying on the floor. So think about the characters in your set extract and think about where you would place them in terms of their levels. But like all of these, the rules aren't set in stone and they are open to interpretation if you have good reason. A king, for example, doesn't always have to be at the highest level to demonstrate their status and sense of importance. They could be sat while other people are standing around them and we would still know that that king has a higher status. And that leads us really nicely onto our final physical skill, which is gestures. Really simply, gestures are movements that characters make with their hands, their arms, or their bodies to suggest some sort of meaning. It could be a wave to get your attention, it could be a point to the subscribe button, it could be a nod. Thanks for subscribing. Or it might be some beckoning gesture of some sort or a shrug. Whatever it is, it often gives us a clue as to how the character's feeling, what they're thinking. What was I going to say next? Oh yeah, what they're trying to communicate within a scene. But I want you to listen closely to this because this is really important advice. Don't fall into the general trap. And what I mean by that is if you're going to explain any type of movement, but specifically gestures and anything that relates to body language, be specific when you're describing these things and make sure you link it to a specific moment in the extract. So often I read sentences and paragraphs that try to explain a character's open or closed body language or strong or weak gestures. And while this describes physical skills to a certain degree, it's general. It's not specific enough to get you the highest marks in the exam. So read the question, describe it specifically and relate it to the extract that you've been given. There we are, 5 physical skills for you to memorize: pace, proxemics, posture, levels, and gestures. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you found this helpful, and hit that bell because in the next video I'm going to be giving you a super solid structure for the 15 mark questions, and maybe I might even bring the cat back at the start. See you then, catch you soon.